We are now live on Zoom and live on Facebook.
All right, well, welcome one and all to the regular meeting of the Cohasset School Committee for Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. We are here at the Cohasset Public Schools in the Cohasset Middle High School Learning Commons in person. We are also virtual via Zoom and Facebook. And I do want to note that we have a new feature on Zoom for closed captioning. Thank you to some community input that allows us to assess and turn on that feature. You do have to do a little thing to turn it on your end. If you want the closed captioning, you go up to the taskbar and
Your toolbar, you just click show captions right in the toolbar and it activates. I know it's working because I can see it populating as well.
oh, perfect. Does it show up more sensible than as I'm speaking it? So it adds some actual content.
Yes, you're speaking in French, correct?
That's it. There we
No,
go.
it's perfectly picking you up.
It's working well. All right, so with that, I'll call the meeting to order. And we'll do a roll call. Mr. Kearney.
Present.
Ms. Leskey.
Present.
Mr. Dial, present. We have two absences. Mr. Carr, who is absent on some travel, and Mr. McClellan, who I believe will be showing up later, but 3 out of 5 makes a quorum, so we can conduct committee business. So with that, I will lead the pledge of allegiance.
Absolutely. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right. So we have some invited guests, so I won't belabor any opening comments because we've got some real insights into our school to receive from our students, and we've got a nice spotlight on learning. So with that, I'll turn it over to Charlie.
Chairman Dial.
It's only been a year and a
Did
half.
we, I know, did we want to do public comment?
Oh, yes, public comment. Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me.
No, keep me on the agenda. I'm so excited about our exciting guests. So as Dr. Sullivan corrected me, we will move into public comment. This is an area for the public to make comments about items that are not on the agenda or let us know that they do have comments for items that are on the agenda. And I will just open it up for public forum here in the room. Seeing none. Anything online?
Not right now.
Okay. We'll give public comment another repeat. And now, Mr. Manko, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me again, Chairman Dial. I'm very excited to be back my senior year, so I'm very happy to be here again. I have, as I did last year, just kind of a list of things I'm going to hit as I go through my little presentation here. And at any time, please feel free to jump in if you have any questions or comments or anything. I'm happy to answer those. So we'll start with the school atmosphere. So this week is Spirit Week. You've been walking around the halls. You've seen lots of fun and exciting outfits. Today was USA Day. Lots of red, white, and blue, which was great. And this is kind of a good week, not only for everyone in the school, but particularly the seniors kind of set the tone. And they're the ones who sort of the underclassmen are looking to see how much they're getting into it and things like that. And so I think they've been doing, not to speak for myself, but I think the grades have been doing a really good job with that, which is exciting. And then at the end of Spirit Week, we're going to have the homecoming dance, which will be exciting. And also November 9th, I believe, Q1 is ending for the high school. So that's an important time. People are getting their last tests and quizzes in before the quarter ends. Something else of note is for seniors, the October 15th deadlines for college applications. Those went off this past weekend, which is very exciting for those who had that. And then we'll be having the early decision round November 1st. So there's lots of buzz, certainly in the senior class, but even underclassmen asking upperclassmen what they're doing, what their plans are. So that's very exciting. And now I'll move on to some athletic highlights. So as this fall season is slowly coming to an end, we've been having many senior days. I know cross country that I'm a part of had our senior day yesterday against Carver, which we lost, but we had fun and a good ceremony. All the other teams are having their senior days. I know boys soccer is next Tuesday and volleyball is coming up, which is exciting. And then for the arts update, I have an email here from Mrs. Moriarty to report for you all. So the Cartoon Club, which is a new club at the high school, is up and running, which offers a good opportunity for those who are interested in that sort of thing to get together and meet. as well as the art magazine publication. The school musical, Rent, is about halfway through the staging process, and the curtain will go up on my birthday, November 30th. And so there'll be more information to come for that. And then acapella and the jazz band are also in full swing, which is very exciting. And I have to say, another part of the arts department, Mindful Morning, which is a club on Wednesday mornings where a few students, right now it's only seniors, but we meet and we have kind of a, with the art teacher, Ms. Berkowitz, we kind of take a moment before school starts every Wednesday to kind of decompress and take our mind off things, which has really been a great experience. And so I'm trying to get more people to come. It's really been awesome. And then moving on to, I have an NHS update. So last spring, I was elected president of NHS. And so as that, I've been waiting to say this, but I have some experience with the Robert's Rules of Order, quorum, all that stuff, presiding over the meetings. We had our second meeting yesterday morning, which was exciting. We just voted to approve the new bylaws, which had some new additions and things that we are tightening the screw after COVID, stuff like that. And another important thing for NHS is that juniors and seniors, we had 57 applicants, and the decisions for those will be coming out next week. So we'll see who gets in, which is very exciting. And then now, just some positives overall. I think underclassmen participation, especially in clubs and activities like that, has been tremendous. As part of like a math team, debate team, I've seen tons of freshmen coming to these sort of beginning of the season meetings. It's really encouraging to see that enthusiasm. And also, just to follow up about last year, the lights in the classrooms, those are good. No complaints there. So
That's good to hear, John.
that's awesome. Thank
Much
you.
to your for your efforts.
Yes. And that's pretty much all I have right now. So if you have any questions or comments about anything, please ask me.
Great, thank you very much. And I'll just let the record know that Vice Chairman Cullen has joined the meeting. And so, Mr. Kearney, questions, comments, thoughts, worries?
Yeah, this is great. Good to see this, Joey. Thank you. Mindful Mornings, I love it. What, you say this just seniors now? Is there any way to, it's open to all of the groups, right?
Yes.
What time does that start?
So we usually meet around 8 a.m. So school starts at 8:15. So it's 15 minutes before, and we just have Ms. Berkowitz kind of walk us through sort of a guided meditation.
We've had that for several years, and it's been really successful. It's good to hear that students still doing it.
That's great too.
And staff do it as well, so it's nice.
Yeah, especially, that'd be a good time because they, especially this time with the deadlines. I'm
Yeah.
learning that right now, times two.
Certainly.
And it's definitely stressful. So I think that'd be a good way to just kind of like get your thoughts for the day collected. I might just start doing it on my own at home.
That's a good
Because I think it's a great process. This is great.
Great, thank you. Ms. Lusky, comments?
Thank you for the report, and it seems glowing. I loved how you mentioned that the participation overall in clubs was strong. What do you attribute that to? I mean, as a senior,
Yeah.
we know that you're all involved and you've bought in, but I'd love to know if you sort of have any thoughts on why that's happening in particular this year.
Yeah. I think kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, I think a lot of it comes from the senior class, and I have so many peers who are so involved and so interested in helping the underclassmen. Like, it's not a senior class. I think Mr. Scott said in the beginning of the year to our whole class, the seniors can make it about themselves, and that's no fun, or they can make it about everyone else. And I think we've successfully done that so far. So,
Well, I hope you pass that down to future generations as well. It's great.
It's a nice senior class leading the way, so high hopes.
Mr. Cullen, anything on your end?
No, always a pleasure to hear from you, Charlie, and I'm sorry that I walked in the middle of your presentation.
no worries.
It's good to see you.
And nothing from me substantive, just happy to hear that things are going well, and it sounds like you're having a great year, so keep us informed, and if there's any lights or water fountains or anything that we need to fix, let us know.
Well.
Great. All right, well, thank you very much.
And I should mention before Charlie leaves that Charlie is also a member of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, which started up this, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we started up our first meeting. And that's a group that is selected by principals at the middle and high school. And that it's about, I think we have 7 or 8 high school students, 4 or 5 middle school students. Actually, the members for this year, they're exactly who they are. We have, in addition to Charlie, we have another senior, Noah McDowell. We have Grace Shaughnessy, who's in 11th grade. Ella Lynch, who's in 11th grade. Nathan Askjar, who's in 11th grade. John Kearney, who's in 10th grade. Jack Sparrow Wilson, 9th grade. Graham Simmons in 9th grade. Dylan Jewell, who's in 9th grade. Stephanie Williams in 8th grade. Luke Hurley, 8th grade. Dominique Vecchiola, 8th grade, and Finn Card, who's in 8th grade. And we're really focusing this year on gathering student voices when we move into our next strategic plan. It's a great group, and the senior and junior members of that team get to serve as liaison, as Charlie does now, and as he did last year to the school committee, updating and often being able to be a voice of the students for you as a school committee. So very proud of Charlie for his leadership, and also should note that Charlie is humble about, he's a fantastic athlete as well, does wonderfully in cross country and I know tennis in the spring. So
Thank you so much.
multi-talented. So thank you, Charlie.
Thank you all.
All right. Have a great night.
You too.
So with that report, we will move on to our next bullet point under invited guests. We have a very special group of people here, I see. We have our Cohasset Middle School Spotlight and Learning Cross Country Team. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Megan Green and students.
Well, and if you want to join us up here.
You want them, they can all slide up?
Yeah, slide up. That's great. I could have them run up.
I was gonna
but they
say,
don't have
run
to
around. Although you might be tired. I think you just did it, Ron.
This is a point of pride for the middle school. This group has done, and Ms. Greeny has done great work with them. Really the first big club in our middle school, and it's expanded to a lot more clubs in the middle school, and a great feeder program for our own cross-country team. So
Yeah,
take it
so
away, and I'll get the presentation up for you.
apologies for our late arrival. We actually just got off the bus from a meet in Stoughton. We got Stoughton and Norwell. So this is actually my 4th year in Cohasset and my 2nd year coaching cross country. And it's a huge collaboration between, the students who run and get to really voice how practice goes. Myself, 2 parents who helped me coach, Nicole Henry and Maeve Bergen, and then just the parents of the team members themselves. It's really been a great community. And we've had a lot of fun. I think usually our numbers equal about 40 total. Today we have 20 runners, but open to everyone grades 6 through 8. And our mentality is very much a come when you can, do what you can. So that doesn't preclude students from participating in other activities. We have a lot of students here that are willing to just kind of share their experiences, who are members of student council, robotics, Pond Street Press. So really, we encourage everyone to just come when they can and have fun, really push themselves, set goals, make friends, and friends with, within other grades they wouldn't get to speak to otherwise, and just have a good time. So I have a couple runners who volunteered to just, share their experiences, especially because some are repeat runners, and just to say, why they've decided to do cross country and what they enjoy about it. Want to start, Paige?
Sure. I've really enjoyed cross country. It's like my first year doing it. I kind
Can
of.
you just tell us your name?
I'm Paige LeQuinn.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I started because of my friends. They all signed up, so I'm like, why not? But I've really enjoyed it because it's just a fun way to get exercise, but it's also just fun to do in the process. The meets are really fun. You can go at your own pace. You don't actually have to ride. Wait, that's not right. You don't have to do, you don't really have, if you don't want to put too much effort into it, you don't really have to. But I like to, and
Can achieve at your own pace.
yeah, you can do your own thing in cross country, and practices are also really fun. We do games, and then we run the course sometimes.
My name's Zoe Evans. I started last year and I really like it. It's low key, and I started because of soccer and lacrosse to stay in shape. And then yeah, I like how it's you can go at your own pace, and it's not a total commitment that you have to commit to.
Hi, my name's Kieran Bergen. I've been doing cross country for 3 years, and I like the fact that you only ever really racing yourself, and you can set goals for yourself. And if you don't want to work as hard as Paisley and Zoe said, you don't have to. But it's really fun sport. It's a good community. Everybody's cheering for each other. It's not like other sports where it's like you're trying to beat the other opponents. Everybody's setting their own goals and you're just trying to improve and have fun.
Sometimes just finishing, I think, is an accomplishment, some of those courses.
I'm Isaac Stevenson, and I've been in cross country for 2 years. One thing that I'm a big fan of when it comes to cross country is probably how flexible the schedule is. They only have meets on Wednesdays, and they have normal practices every other day or every day besides Wednesdays. And then I'm also a fan of getting to run through all these different places: a forest, asphalt, even on a road once.
My name's Andrew Astier, and I'm also a second year runner for the cross country team. I really like it because it helps me for other sports. And I also get to meet new friends from different grades and talk to them where I usually wouldn't in school. And also, like, I can set individual goals, which is really good for like my improvement in running. And like every race, I try to get a better place. To every time I try to pass this person. And I think it's a really competitive sport, but it's also a team sport. Like, you're cheering your team on, you're cheering the girls on. It's really fun and a good environment. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, hi, I'm Teddy Cunningham, and I really like cross country. This is my first year, and I like how you can set goals, and like every time you can see how much you improve by. And it's a team sport, but you're also like working for yourself. And yeah, that's what I like.
So they didn't have to speak, they didn't want to. Yeah.
Great. Anybody else want to say anything?
I know we have a video.
Oh, yeah, let's watch the
Should we show the video?
Yeah.
Another one, I'm sorry.
I really like cross country because you can set goals for yourself and you don't have to like see what other people have, like, because even if you're like not in the that like, you know, you're not like first or third place, like you can still like if you hadn't like, you know, you can accomplish like a goal you didn't last time, or like you can get faster than you did last time. It's also really like the like you don't have to go to every meet, which is kind of nice because like other people have other sports and it's like it's fun.
How many students on the team?
We have about 40 when everyone is available, but on any given practice day, roughly about 20.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting, just before this, I came from a cross-country race in Marshfield because my daughter Charlotte, who's in 6th grade, runs on the Marshfield team. I think you guys are going against them next week. So I'll root for her and then all of Cohasset. That'll be very exciting. So shall I show the video?
Yeah, on that, as you bring that slide up, it does show our upcoming schedule, and our next meet is a home meet, which is next Wednesday, and it is against Marshfield. So the team begins and ends just outside of the gate to the football stadium. So if you have some time in the afternoon and want to pop in, it's a lot of fun, it's beautiful, and I wish Charlie was here because he deserves a lot of credit. He and his teammates on the high school team, they come out and they monitor the course so that kids from out of town don't get lost, or if anybody stumbles or get hurt, there's somebody there to help. So we really appreciate the high school team, Charlie and his teammates as well. And then finally, because the team competes in the South Shore Middle School cross-country league, there is a league meet November 1st. Encouraging parents to recognize the fact it's also parent conferences that day. So maybe you'll come out and support the team on the 1st and come to conferences on the 2nd. But there's a lot of great stuff, and I really credit Megan, she didn't introduce herself in her position. Megan's also our school psychologist and adjustment counselor. So throughout the day, she just gives so much to the school and the students. And then after school for this, oftentimes a huge group, they have a lot of fun. And she and Nicole and May have really done a great job with the program. So I can't thank them enough.
I can't stress how wonderful the sport is. All the students, all you spoke about setting individual goals and achieving them. And that's so true. And it's such a nice community. I'm sure you've met good people on the other teams too. So it's a very nice experience. Shall I play this one up a little bit?
Right, yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's right here. That's right.
High school.
Go Paisley, go! It's almost
Gone too fast.
Appreciate the time.
Nice job, all you. CMS. Good job, Chris. Nice job, Randolph. Good way, CMS. Nice job. Repeat. Good job, man. Good way, Megan.
Here, you can sprint from here.
Good
job, guys.
Cheer.
Yeah. Thank you for putting the spotlight on CMS, and happy to, share the cross-country team. Like I said, it's just a program I'm so proud of. And our athletes are so proud. We're so proud of them. And it's so important to come out and support them because they grow up in a blink of an eye. Even seeing some of those pictures of the 7th and 8th graders, it's like, wow, they got big quick.
Yeah, you should be very proud. We're proud of you.
Thank you very much. Anything from the committee, Mr. Kearney?
Guys, this is awesome. My son started, I think, one of the first teams, and he's a sophomore now. And, I was just like, oh, you're gonna do cross country, what does that mean? And I'm a big fan now. At first he was in 6th grade, I'm gonna go run in the woods and wait for him. He'd be like, is he gonna come out? Like, I was so scared and nervous of this sport, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, he's gonna go run by himself. I'm like, yeah. So I was a little nervous at first. However, when he told me that he was gonna do it in high school, we were just, I didn't know what to expect. But the teammate, like you're saying, he runs on his own pace and he just gets what they call the PR, personal, thank you. So I'm learning all this terminology and, I just, as the Friday night, under the lights, we went up to Barnstable and there was teams there and there was like, Cohasset had their own tent and it was like 20 different schools up there and they ran Friday night under the lights, and it was for me. It was a combination of like skiing because the lights, and then like golf where you're running to each where they're going to tee off. So it was so exciting. So I'm so happy for you guys to do that. It's something you'll have for the rest of your life. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Ms. Leskey?
Yes, thank you to the team for speaking, for being brave enough to speak after a really long day. You've been to school and you've been on a bus and you've run a race and you've come back and you probably haven't had dinner yet. So thank you. You all spoke very well. And thank you, Coach, for doing this. My daughter is also a member of the team. And it has been such a win across the board in terms of being everything you would want a team to be, which is welcoming, encouraging, positive, and I mean, taking the intensity out of sports and doing sports for fun is one of the biggest gifts we can give our kids in this day and age. And I'm so happy that our CMS kids have that opportunity. So thank you.
Mr. Clark?
Great presentation, guys. Thanks for sharing with us. Glad kids are all having so much fun with it. And thank you, Ms. Greeny, for everything you do for them. I ran cross country too, in a very important role. We call it the caboose. Which is the last car in a train. So that was a very important role. Someone had to fill that slot and I was happy to do that when I ran cross country. But just have one question, Ms. Greeny. Do you think it would be useful or beneficial at all to have shorts for them, like team shorts?
It's a great question.
Why don't you put some thought into it and let us know, because I think that's probably an attainable goal, and I know they didn't have some, and it might be a nice sort of, I don't know, a little bit of show of pride to have some shorts as well. I think that's an easy grab if that's something that you guys want. You guys can talk about it as a team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. My kids, great job. I'm really impressed you came here after a meet. I really love hearing that you're all committed, but at the same time, doing this for fun. And, it is important, as Ms. Leskey said, that we remember that sports are for fun, making friends. I heard lots of talk about making friends and building relationships, and that's fantastic. So thank you for putting it on, and thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for coming tonight.
Great job, guys.
Good job.
Looking good.
Okay.
Another good thing about cross country is you sleep better at night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our next invited guest, we have Principal Mills and Mr. Erlinson to talk to us about a Cohasset Middle School Puerto Rico trip. We'll wait for Mr. Mills to come back as he escorts out the team. Mr. Erlinson, welcome.
Thank you. While we're waiting, I want to thank Mr. Erlinson for all the work he's done with these trips over the years. He's been a real driving force behind some wonderful opportunities for kids. So it's something he deserves a lot of kudos for.
Thank you. Absolutely. And I know that the robotics is another place where you go above and beyond. We very much appreciate your effort there and here. So thank you. but I'll turn it over to you to take the lead.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us here. And we're here again to look for the school committee's support and approval and to run a trip for the 8th grade. As you guys know, in the years past, we've run a trip to Arizona over the April break, all years except for the COVID time. And it's been fantastic. The kids have been amazing. Last year, we had 39 kids who attended this trip. Initially, we were looking at maybe 24 as a max, and then they just kept coming in. And I approached John, said, John, can you come as a traveler? Because if I'm doing this on myself, I don't think I can't do it. And John was grateful enough to kind of join in with us, and we had probably the best trip ever.
It was a lot
It
of
was
fun.
just fantastic.
The Grand Canyon trip last year.
The Grand Canyon trip. I was the caboose and the Bryce Canyon.
Someone's gonna
Someone has
it's a tough job.
We didn't lose anybody.
So as we came to this year, the issue we've had over the past few years is really trying to get enough chaperones during that April break. Last year, I barely was able to scratch enough through, and John was kind enough to kind of add that last person onto that. This year, we're just, I have a real challenge getting the teachers to kind of go on a second year once they've taken one. And so it became apparent that April break really wasn't going to work out very well. That being said, also my wife was like, "You're going on April break again? Wasn't someone else supposed to be leading these trips in there?" And of the original group that we started with, I'm the last one standing who was organizing these trips of the 4 staff members we initially started with. And so thinking about that, we decided, well, what if we could do it at a different time? So we thought, June, usually the last half of June, no one really has plans then because you never know what's going to happen. So I approached some staff with that, and they were all thrilled about it. They weren't thrilled about Arizona in June, 120-degree temperature here, there, whatnot. And so we decided to look at a different venue, and this year we settled on Puerto Rico. The kids was really have a lot of parent feedback right now, how excited they are. But we've also heard a lot about cost too. In the years past, the costs started at $2,600 initially, and then it went up. I think last year was $3,000, $3,100, that range. This year, the Puerto Rico trip would be $3,400, and that has a lot to do with $3,400. With inflation, with airfares, what it is. It's something that we're really cognizant of and troubled by, to be honest. As educators in middle school, you really want to be inclusive of everything. We still wanted to offer a trip this year, but we also have in the background, we have some other future plans that we'd love to share with you as well. Possible DC trip with the class. That might be able to do scholarships or things. So those are some of the things we're looking towards transitioning to. But I didn't want to have this class, since we're not able to do a DC trip this year, I didn't want to leave them. I did want to put that out there. And we have a tentative parent night scheduled, contingent upon your approval. And we'll see where it goes. But I'd love to field any of your questions if you want to add anything about the trips.
Yeah, like I said, it's been a tradition. And we didn't want to just take a tradition away without introducing a new one. So we've been meeting with travel companies looking at a DC trip that could be for the entire grade, and something that Bob said we could try to fundraise or provide scholarships for, but something that's a better price. So we're looking at right now, we obviously have to come back and propose and present to you guys, but we'd be looking at the fall of 24, next fall, for the trip for the class of 29. So like I said, like I think you had said, Bob, we're not ready to go ahead with the DC trip, especially at that time of year. We didn't want to leave this group without any sort of opportunity to travel if they wanted it, because the difference between the DC trip and this is that this is like you can't bring 100 kids or 80 kids to Puerto Rico. It ends up being a much smaller group.
One of the hopes I have for this year, we only have a Spanish trip that always, the kids taking Spanish are always, the kids go to Quebec and French. And so that aspect, one of the things I'm talking with our 8th grade Spanish teachers is maybe we can partner up with a group in Puerto Rico to kind of have pen pal-ish sort of things. But to me, just sharing some information across cultures, and then ideally getting down there and spending an afternoon, hit the beach with this whatever group that we contact with, and just have them really get to know someone from a different world. And I think that would be really, I get really excited thinking about that, and I hope that kind of pans out. We're having our grand classroom rep look for that. She's our Puerto Rican native, and so she's trying to reach out to some different groups. They're out of school then too, but it'd be nice to have that interaction, I think, going through the school year too.
There's no shortage of educational destinations on the itinerary, World Heritage sites, historic sites, rainforests, so it's, you know,
Bio Bay, oh yeah.
not me, but yeah. Yeah. So there are some neat cultural and historic itinerary, items on the itinerary.
And as you've seen from past trips that you've approved from this particular organization, they run a really high quality trip, very safety conscious, and this would be no different, I'm sure.
So if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them, or any concerns.
Great, I'll just turn it over to the committee, Mr. Kearney.
This is great, thank you. A couple questions. So they don't need passports?
No, so US protectorate.
Yeah, so what would they have for identification on them?
So usually it's just like for traveling to Arizona, we have a list, an itinerary that then the grand classroom gives to the airline. The airline then books all those tickets, and so we just have our list literally of the roster. So that's all they need. We do ask them to bring their little school ID with a picture on it, just to make sure.
Okay, yeah.
The TSA is usually we just all go through as a group, so they don't really.
It's just like flying in Nevada.
Yeah, no, that's great, that's good. And same thing, I know it's San Juan, it's the same, you're gonna fly into San Juan?
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
all international.
Yeah, and how long is the flight, like 2 or 4 hours?
It's like 3 hours, I think. I've flown there once, so I think it was like 3 hours.
Yeah, nonstop back.
No real good places to stop on the way there, I think. What about, yeah, I think it is nonstop.
Yeah.
So that's what they do.
Yeah,
It makes it
probably-
easier.
Yeah,
We'll see what the costs are, because they book things out. Sometimes they do connecting flights, but it's one of our goals always to have just nonstop, especially when we're on the East Coast already.
Yeah.
Makes sense to.
because it's 30, maybe, I
Fly
would
to
figure
Detroit
3
or something.
4 hours. It's right outside.
What have you done regarding the equity issues in the past around a family or a student approaching you who has said, I would love to go on this trip, my family can't afford it?
Yeah, we had real hard discussions initially. When we first started this, that's one of our goals, was to maybe do something like that. The issues came down to how is that awarded? First of all, where's the money come from? The fundraiser, how's it awarded? Do we ask for pay stubs? Do we ask for tax documents? Is it based upon free and reduced lunch? It became very clear that it's something that, as a semi-private group, it really wouldn't be something doable in any way. Thinking about a whole class trip, now that could be something a little bit more organized and fundraising sort of things. There's also fundraising ideas I know I've had from my time with Boy Scouts and other things, that how to kind of generate a fair distribution of resources. But we decided it just was too difficult to try to do that as such a small organization. And I've approached the.
So as the district or as the school being the organization that you're referring to?
No, it's our Cohasset Trek, just the teachers.
Okay.
So we're a private group that's
Gotcha.
doing under the approval of the school committee. We definitely require that, because we don't want to do anything that's not within the approval of this body.
And that is one of the reasons transitioning to a new type of trip, is to make sure that when they mention class trip to DC, obviously the teachers who would have to leave their families, and they'd have to agree to this as well. But having done this in a different district, it becomes the day. It is the school day for the students and the staff. And it will be several days in DC where but as a thought, right, where you have so many opportunities for interdisciplinary connections. That's a very different trip than this traditional trip, which they've done for years. But there is a time to transition it. I get the question just becomes.
So the purpose currently is just within the tradition as an opportunity to travel with your peers?
Yeah, travel education, and we're committed to if there's going to be a class trip, we're not going to run a separate trip somewhere that might just distract or take resources away from what we want to do as a class. That would be preferred.
And your question too is a good one, where in the time up in Cohasset, we've only run a couple because of COVID, but the issue hadn't come up, the equity issue, and I understood it to be a tradition. And I looked at the high school and, last year they went to Galapagos and there were, trips throughout, Europe. So I think that's the tradition that it's been. We're looking at changing that.
Remember,
So having an inclusive trip.
Well,
To
so-
answer your question, it's never been brought up to me, but it's something I
It's
think
always,
we felt
we've been
uncomfortable
troubled
with.
by it.
Because we understand, like,
Yes.
with it, it's not necessarily open to every family.
We've looked at mechanisms to create a scholarship fund. Actually, Sue Owen, it was one of her goals to look at that. I know she's still looking at creating it, that could provide some type of support for these trips that happen. Remember, we also were a middle high school together, so we didn't have this unique, a middle school class trip is very different than separate class, separate opportunity trips at the high school, like for instance, the Guatemala service trip, the trip to the Galapagos. Since I've been here, I believe they went to Thailand. And just as remembering, those are trips that are available. We have trips that go through our social studies and history programs. We go to Europe, for instance. These are all, they're trips that can happen, and some of them have more defined scholarship opportunities than others. But a class trip is very different. A class trip is something that you really have to make sure that everybody has equal access to. And, you can make the argument that every trip should have that and you work towards it, but you do work within sometimes the mechanism of that particular group you're working with and what they offer for scholarship opportunities.
I mean, I'm certainly a proponent. I have led DC class trips 6 or 7 times and absolutely had a blast, and the class pulled together, and it's a wonderful thing. I think 8th grade is wonderful timing for that before heading to high school. I'd also encourage you to open beyond DC, that some of these, they're wonderful summer camps that run full year school round programs for schools to go be on site. Chewonki up in Maine, Kia Wavis Education up in Maine, and really wonderful opportunities for maybe not as much educational, but the SEL component of having kids really come together as a group.
The conversation we need to have for curriculum, I mean, if it's going to be a school day, it has to be curriculum focused as well. So civics in 8th grade is really all about that. So that's kind of the focus. But there would be fun to get together and start thinking about what are the other ways we can tie in to
Look at the ELA time, because our 8th graders do read about the Holocaust. They read The Book Thief and parts of the Diary of Anne Frank. So that would be proposed on our itinerary.
It's exceptional.
It is, yeah. At the same time, to run the groups there too.
And it does take time and real buy-in to organize a large trip of that type. And it's a real shift in tradition, and that shift sometimes takes time. And this was a situation where I think I speak for Officer Millsbury, they're working on it, but as Mr. Olson said, to get the chaperones even for April break was hard, to develop it for this year just practically wasn't coming together. So really what we're faced with is this trip this year, possibly sunsetting it is what I understand, and moving to a more class trip. And whether we call this a class trip or not, this is really one of those opportunity trips that many people in the class do avail themselves of. It's not the same, as Mr. Olson said, as a full class trip. So that's kind of where we are. And that's, I think that's the question you're asking the team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I want to preface everything I'm going to say with the statement that Mr. Arnoldson, I'm extremely grateful to you for providing this opportunity for the kids. I mean, I was a beneficiary of similar programming when I was in school, and it simply wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you and for your commitment to providing this type of experience and sort of adventure for the kids. So thank you for doing that. Having said that, I had a few questions. I'm always in support of any sort of field trips or experiences like this. This particular one gives me a little bit of pause. And that is, so first of all, I want to ask, if this wasn't approved today, I'm not saying it isn't, I'm saying if this wasn't approved, does that mean that this class doesn't get a trip? Or is there time to pivot?
So in my understanding, if the school committee doesn't approve, then I really can't use school resources of any kind. I can't be in the auditorium.
We wouldn't be, we wouldn't be connected to it at all. I mean, my feeling, strong feeling is it needs, and I think the committee agrees, if we're going to have a school trip, then we need to endorse it, fully support it, fully be involved with it. So it wouldn't be a situation where we would have any ability to allow Mr. Rhodes.
I think my question's been misunderstood. I'm asking, I would like to support a trip. I just don't know about this particular one. I'm just talking to me personally. I have no idea what everyone else's perspective is. My point is, if we didn't approve this today, Puerto Rico adventure, could you pivot, go to Grand Classroom and say, what's the DC trip looking like for the 25 students? Okay, we're not doing the whole class, but we can still go to DC. Fairly easy, brings the cost down. I feel like we're still out far enough in advance where that could happen.
So switching to a destination.
Correct.
It's not impossible. I mean, if we're talking about, in June, in DC in June, it's it's hot. It's not like ungodly hot.
It's close, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've climbed
This isn't the
little
Caribbean,
round top.
basically, so.
Yeah. It's, I know I already had a lot of parents who are really eager for this. I think that.
When you say this, you mean Puerto Rico trip?
Yeah, I've already had like 3 or 4 parents express interest in signing up. I know there probably some disappointment there. Could we still provide something? It all depends if the students and families want to take part. And ideally, right now, if we don't get 20 students, I think is the target for this. I mean, last year we had 39. 20 is kind of the cutoff right now. So if it's less than 20, then those costs are even higher. And you have to go to those people and say, are you willing to spend this much more to still run this trip? I think it would be a challenge to run a different trip at this stage of the game.
But not impossible.
But not impossible. We just have to see. I mean, it would, yeah. The part they really stress is like trying to give parents enough time to kind of budget, because it says so much. And the earlier you do it, the better they can fit into their monthly budgets. Yeah, we'd have to do all the legwork of trying to choose a different destination. Do I want to involve students and parents in choosing that? Is that going to extend it a bit more? Do I just arbitrarily choose something?
Chaperones.
Oh, yeah, chaperones. I'm the amount of time and effort it would take in there would be prohibitive to changing, I think.
Okay. Does Grand Classroom offer financing? A lot of times they do 7 months in advance, the parents can pay monthly.
Yes, yeah, they do that.
Okay, that's a good thing. And we've never run a middle school trip outside the continental United States, correct?
We do Canada for Quebec.
The Quebec trip.
But I did not want to do a passport required trip ever. That just is too much.
But that's for our French students.
Yeah, that's Kathy Saunders doing that. Left that on her.
Okay, but not outside the continental United States.
No, this is the first time flying. So protector, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'll just be candid. I mean, I have concerns about the cost. I think that there are a lot of wonderful locations within continental United States, which I think would even be more educational. For sure, this is a great experience for the kids. There's a lot of different, culture there, different environments, different, sort of biospheres they wouldn't see normally, the rainforest, things like that. But there's also swimming and beach and, sort of Caribbean vacation element to it. I loved your Grand Canyon trip. I hear you in June going to Arizona. I love that. That's like a very, very enriching trip. I'm worried about that age group outside the continental United States in the Caribbean. I am worried about the cost. I think it would be cheaper, regardless of the amount, to go to somewhere like Washington, D.C., or, some other place in the United States. We're using D.C. I'm using that because we've been talking about it openly. And there's clearly educational value to that trip. So I just don't want to be, I feel like I'm sort of met with a Hobson's choice here. Like I'm not loving the expense. That's great that they have the payment plan. That I feel like makes it a little bit more attainable for folks. You're able to break it down in advance. I'm worried about the destination, I think, and that's not absolutely any sort of statement against you, Mr. Arlenson. I know that you're a complete pro in running these trips, but I worry about it with this age group. I'm more comfortable with it in high school. I don't know where I come out on this. I support trips like this. I'm worried about this particular destination.
So I'll echo my appreciation for the work you do here. This is a lot of work, and I don't know that it's transparent to the community, and it is certainly transparent to me now as I've kind of learned about this stuff. Is there anything magic about today's date for approval? And the reason I
Well,
ask,
I have a parent meeting tomorrow night, and if you're all right with me holding anyways, and you want to delay approval to some other date, I can have that parent meeting to discuss and find out. Then it kind of commits to that, I think, this trip then. But no, the only thing, I mean, I've told parents that contingent upon approval, we'll have a parent meeting tomorrow night. Parent meeting at 7 p.m.
the reason I ask is that I think one of the, so we've received some feedback from the community about the cost. And you've come and you've addressed that, and I think that's helpful. And, you know, I share Mr. McClellan's passion for these sorts of trips. I don't have the same concern about the destination. I've been to Puerto Rico and found it to be a very lovely place, and I think the kids would have I want to do the bioluminescent bay tour and night swim. That sounds awesome. But I just want to make sure that we've really explored our options. The other thing and the reason I think it's Hobson's choice for me is because I don't want this class not to have a trip. So I think it's not a result from my perspective that they don't have a trip. The question is, you know, could we, if today is not magic as far as approval, could we ask, you know, to just look at what the feasibility is with a little bit of a sharper pencil on, hey, look, does Grand Classroom have this? Would there be parental buy-in? You know, soft circle, what other options are. Not saying that we're not going to do this one, but just so that we are responsive to community concerns on cost and committee concerns on destination, just so we get a little bit more information. I mean, as it stands, if we were to vote today, I guess I would be supportive of this because I think that you know, it sounds like we've already gotten some community feedback from parents who are excited about the trip. You know, this has been something that, you know, maybe this class was looking forward to last year. So there's a lot of reasons I think to support this, but I do just want to make sure we've explored all of our potential options if we have the time and latitude to do so.
If there's specific questions and things you want addressed, I can take a look at those in the short term, you know, before any meeting tomorrow night and get Grand Classroom's feedback on whatever questions I can't answer. You know, I could delay a parent meeting until later. There's no reason why I have to have this tomorrow night. So we can postpone it for a week or two if that's what this body would request. I can do that.
I guess what I'll say, and I don't want to phrase it as a request. It's really more an actual inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worthwhile? Could you talk to Grand Classroom and see what other options there are? Would that be a fruitful discussion? And would it yield us other options?
In terms of destinations and cost, is there anything else besides those, or just?
I think that to me, the cost, and actually, I'm not worried about the destination. I just assume the destination comes with increased cost. Like if you were going to go to Providence, it probably wouldn't be 23 ahead. But
one
Providence is going to be fun.
One of the other locations I initially was tossing around, but you know, not going southwest, but going northwest. Looking at Yellowstone Glacier, those sort of areas, and those are fantastic as well.
Yes.
As we started looking into this, we thought, well, Portage seemed close. I thought it might be cheaper. It's closer, you know, less airfare, stuff like that. But so we ended up going that, and then we're at where we're at now.
Yeah.
And I can have them price out something like that. Still focus on the national park aspect, which is you know, fantastic, and those elements there, you know, Wyoming in June is gorgeous. It's that elevation and everything else. So we can take a look at that and see. I can put that to the parents and families tomorrow night as well, and as a possible option. It's like, if this isn't doable, would you guys want to do this if this is what's available?
To be honest, I think from my perspective, that parental feedback would be really valuable.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we're serving the parents of our students here and most of our students. So if that doesn't derail this in such a way that, you know, it puts us in a situation where we're gonna have a no trip,
Yeah.
then I'd love to be able to have you come back and provide us that
Yeah.
feedback.
Yeah, besides like 3 or 4 families I've contact with, I don't really know who's all gonna attend. So we have it as a Zoom as well, so we can put out a little QR code or a link for a survey of sorts to kind of answer some of these questions there. And then I can forward those results to you tomorrow night.
I think that'd be great. I don't know if there are other.
I just want to add something because I don't want to have been interpreted as being against Puerto Rico as a place or as a community. Okay, I'm not anti-Puerto Rican or anything like that. I am worried about just the fact that it's a protectorate. It's not within the United States. It's not a state. It's not, you know, it's just, it's in the Caribbean. I worry about all kinds of different safety concerns. It has nothing to do with the people who reside there or the place or anything like that. It's just really the location and the fact that it's not part of the United States as, you know, a state. I know it's a protectorate, but it's not, you know, being within the continental United States makes me feel more comfortable overall from a safety perspective. It could be Puerto Rico, it could be any island in the Caribbean. I feel the same way. So I just want to make that clear because I don't know if it was coming off as though I was, you know, had some sort of safety concern about, you know, Puerto Rico in particular. That's not what it was. It's that it's outside the continental United States.
And I've had these conversations with our Grand Classroom rep about safety as a specific thing. And they've done a lot of trips to Puerto Rico and they know what they're doing down there. And so I trust him for his planning abilities.
Do they have other 8th grade trips that they've done?
You know,
to Puerto Rico?
we said he's done trips. I don't know if they've done middle school trips there. That's a good question.
They all have Grand Classroom, EF tours. They all have middle school trips to
Yeah.
Puerto Rico and beyond and all kinds of international destinations. They just may not have a guy like me in the school committee that's worried about it.
Honestly, like, for me, I see what Jen was saying has merit to like getting more kids involved, especially, I was surprised as a parent. I know that we didn't have a Washington DC trip for 8th grade. It's like every town that I know has one. So I was really kind of disappointed as an 8th grade parent not to have that. Second, like my kids are going to Europe. I'm scared, Craig, like you wouldn't believe, but they are seniors. And there's a lot more to that because they need passports. They're going to be in Italy and who knows where. I'm just going to track them. So I got to be honest, I'm really nervous about that. However, I do see, like, if you were to say that we're not going to do this and we're going to involve more children in more learning environment that can be more affordable, because honestly, $3,200, that's a lot of money for a family and for any family. Like, for me, it's ×2 to go to Europe. So it's, are we only, is our trip more, is it exclusive? It sounds a little bit more exclusive being that it's 3,200 as opposed to being 12 to 15 to 2,000 to go to Washington. There is some safety concerns there, but you know, you get everybody on a bus. I'm a worried anyway. So to be honest with you, so like I would like to see us delay it a little bit just to try to explore different options to make it more available for more children and families to get that 8th grade experience. Because right here we have 20 kids to 30 kids as opposed to 100 kids that could be 80 kids. So I think that's my perspective. So I kind of see both sides to what Craig and Jen was saying. So like for me to be down the middle with that, I would just say that I'd like to see us like at least explore
Yeah.
what another trip would look like.
So I think the question I would ask then is, would you be interested in a different trip to one of these locations? Basically ask them, would you participate in a trip if it was anywhere else besides Puerto Rico? Question 1. Question 2, if other locations, which of the others would you still want to go to? Something like that. And that
The parents.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is my, this is formative
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
And so is there any more than that? I think,
It sounds like there's a sensitivity of a price.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, and the other
Anticipation.
locations would be ideally cheaper, and I have to double check and see what, you know, a Pacific Northwest thing would be, we didn't have them priced that out. But obviously a DC trip, if that's kind of in there, that would be much more reduced. So if parents would want to do that, then that could be definitely an option if we have a larger.
Also, to the idea of getting chaperones, and maybe people who would want to do chaperone a Puerto Rico trip that may not be as chaperoning a DC trip.
There's a lot of
There's,
people.
so we're sensitive to that. I don't want to say that we're not going to do a trip. I think from where I sit, I want the kids to do a trip.
Me too.
I just want to pressure test whether it's this trip. And I would very much appreciate a little bit more information if it doesn't derail the plans. And if you indulge us in that, I think that would be really helpful.
No, but we'll hold off on any registration sort of stuff. We'll just collect information, talk about the triplets plan, but also the possibilities that we could do. And that's a short-term thing we could easily get grant customers to talk about, because they have trips that go to the Northwest and those things. So put some of that information out there as well, let them think about it, maybe take a day for them to respond to some of the questions, and then kind of go from there. And then
Can I also ask one other thing that would be helpful, is if you could, and Dr. Sullivan, maybe at the administration level too, if there are ways to, I remember we had not Galapagos, it was the Guatemala proposal trip. We got the idea for it, the presentation a few months ago. And one of the elements of that was like a legitimate fundraising activities that the kids would do to fundraise for the trip. And I'm wondering if there's some idea like that we could do here to help defray some of the costs.
I'll talk to the grant classroom if they know of what other groups have done. Kind of take a look and see, because I know for fundraising in terms of like other organizations have been part of, whether it be baseball or those, it's usually, holding your hand out in front of a Stop and Shop, things like that. So those things
Selling
are-
wreaths, selling Christmas wreaths.
Yeah, and selling products is always kind of a little more logistical thing, but usually, if you ever go to Stop and Shop on the weekend, some groups there collecting money for the
The
cheerleader.
dump, the volleyball team is the dump this weekend. So,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, just, that's a thought, it'd be helpful, and if you would indulge us in getting that information, come back to us, that would be good.
Gladly, yeah.
Also want to, just to point out again, thank Mr. Ernst for that flexibility, because this is, his time as well. And he's just the thought of him doing that is very.
So
appreciate.
when you say parents, is this going to be just the parents that were interested in this trip, or are you going to speak to the whole eighth grade?
I can send it out on the
Because
school
like,
email.
honestly, like,
This is something
the
that.
goal
we're
for
also
me
looking
would
at.
be to vote on this. If you came back and said, we have more people participating, more children participating in more of a educational and it's less money, I would be happy with it.
So I'm going to consider the
That's
same
all.
time frame. I'm going to talk to the people who have stepped forward as chaperones, make sure they'd still be on board for some other locations too. And it's all going to be kind of, contingent upon all those things kind of.
More students, more chaperones as well. Just remember this. So this is some of the difficulty.
Of course, but we're making decisions for the entire grade, right?
I agree.
And it's the
Just point it
district's
out.
kids and other people's kids. And look, certain concerns might be irrational, I don't know, but I'm trying to, make a deliberate decision for other people's children.
Absolutely.
So it seems
Understanding that some people may be mad because they'd be missing out on Puerto Rico. I understand that too, but
I was just pointing out a logistical.
for sure, I understand, but I mean, I
Well,
think it's important to do what Mr. Dial's suggesting.
So what presented as with, these, legitimate serious concerns that are out there, we want to find some more information before we commit our resources to any one sort of action. So from there, finding the people who come tomorrow night, getting some information from them, but also sending something out to other parents who didn't attend. Also, would you want to do this if it's a different
Well,
location?
if there are parents who would want to do a trip, it's cost prohibitive. And that's not necessarily a needs-based thing, that just could be, this is a big chunk of money that could impact patient finance. So I don't think we need to belabor the point. I think it seems like we've got general agreement at the committee level that if we can get some more information, it seems like that's a viable path for you. And we very much appreciate
Yeah,
your
we'll see where it goes.
willingness to do it. And I also think that I'm hearing but certainly support for trips in general. And so it's a very level of enthusiasm for this particular one. I think it's great. It's one more about the cost, but anyway, I think unless there's any other burning issues, we'll let you go back to your regularly scheduled meeting.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your.
Thank you very much. I don't know where much the vote.
Have a great night.
Good.
I'll move to table the vote until we receive further information as requested by the chair.
All right, so the motion made, table vote. The motion is second by Mr. Kearney, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion unanimous stands. We'll table this until the next agenda.
Thank you.
Or upon receipt of more information, whatever comes Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the suggestion. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome. So with that, we'll get to school news. Dr. Sullivan.
Yes, I think Charlie did a wonderful job updating on everything that's been happening the last couple of weeks. I did want to mention a couple of events that Charlie didn't talk about. One was we had a fantastic fun run today, both at fun runs at Osgood and Deer Hill. And I want to thank the PSO leadership, everyone who volunteered, DJing, whatever it might have been, Mr. Dykes, Mr. Yeomans, and all the staff for putting on that fabulous event. It is a riot, quite frankly. I don't know any other word for it. I love that they tell them to jog, right? Jog, and they get out. It's like Carl Lewis out of the gates, I mean, it is, and then the water break becomes a very important thing after about 3 or 4 laps. Anyway, very feel-good event, very nice, and thank you again, Cohasset community, for your support. All that money goes directly to Cohasset Public Schools, so and PSO. So that's a wonderful event. And another, speaking of wonderful events, very important event. We and I know that Mr. Kearney, you had spoken about the importance of this. We have Safe Harbors working with our high school on October 24th to bring an alcohol awareness presentation to the students. And on October 24th, all students in the high school will have the opportunity to listen to a speaker. The speaker's name, he's a gentleman named Jeff McCullough. He's a former high school student who came from a financially stable family. I'm reading off the bio here, was involved in high school life and who struggled with some alcohol misuse. He's 29, currently lives in Cohasset, and he's sober, and he has some important experiences and lessons learned to share with the students. Incidentally, he's also the grandson of historian David McCullough.
Oh, Rick John Adams.
Yeah,
Wrote the book, John Adams.
quite a, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
quite a
Wow.
famous historian. After that, we have a whole community of volunteers. I believe Mr. McClellan is one of them, who will work with in a debrief, and maybe some other folks here are part, but if not, it's very much a representative of the town group who will bring students from that speech to a breakout session and talk about their reactions and reflections to that, and also go through some scenarios and conversations about how to handle situations that involve alcohol that students will face. And I want to thank Safe Harbors for continuing to be a tremendous partner. I'm looking into in near to come school committee meetings of having a spotlight for my youth ambassadors. I've already talked to Noah McDowell, who is the head, I believe, one of the heads of the youth ambassadors. Also one of our liaisons, who happens to be up next meeting. So perhaps that will fall into place. I just need to get some confirmation on that, but certainly they'll have all of this that I just mentioned to talk about. So I thought that was very notable and important.
I would just like to say this, like, if to all the parents, if they're listening out there, that is the best thing you can get your child involved in, is Safe Harbor. It teaches them professionalism. They have all these Zoom meetings and they meet at the library, and it's just an incredible source to kind of reiterate what you're saying at home. And I'm so grateful and thankful for all the participation for that, because I have 3 children that are involved in it. And it's great, because I think the biggest thing that we got to learn from this is changing the culture. Like saying it's okay to say no. It's okay not to drink. It's okay. And matter of fact, it's not even cool to drink, because I think that's the culture that we have to change in this community, because there is a lot of teenage drinking going on. And if we don't think there is, then we're all naive, because I know it's happening. I have children that tell me it's happening. So there is there's children, and for us to be on top of it and to discuss it just makes us more of a mature community to let us know that, hey, it's out there. Where are they getting it from? Is it from an older sibling? We need to educate that older sibling that there's ramifications for your actions, because you put everybody at risk. Because you're getting an 18-year-old drunk, and that's putting everybody at risk. It's putting wherever you are, whoever buys it. And I think that we need to really express that within the community, that it's not okay to drink, especially on school property.
Oh, sure.
That's something.
I think it's also important to note that, thank you for that. I think
Yeah,
it's
I'm
ver-
sorry, I just,
No, that's
it's a
important.
war that's worth fighting for, because it's happening, and I think, I'm so grateful that we're addressing.
Yeah, I am as well, and I think the community should know that this will be handled with the proper sensitivity, support, and communication. And I know that Principal Scott will be communicating exactly what's happening, so families know what kind of conversations are taking place with their students. And we'll also have our counselors on hand to deal with any students who could be in distress because of some reflections or whatever might come from the discussions. So we'll handle that with sensitivity, but it is a very, I think, important topic. So thank you for noting that, Mr. Keating.
I'm just glad you put it on the agenda. Thank you.
Any other school days?
I know. I mean, I could keep going, but I think those
I
are
know,
the
of course you can. There's
those are the
lots going on in our
big
schools.
hits. So things are going, well, I should mention that, as we typically do, Dr. Scoggins and I checking in on staff and kind of, sort of, casual meetings and morning for people to just drop in and talk about anything. We bring the bagels and we've had some nice conversations, and nice check-in points.
Yeah,
Things
really nice.
are going very well. And we're working hard to make sure that they know we're there to support. We are there to support. So that's all.
Well, that'll move us to our next agenda item, block E, teaching and learning, and we're going to kick off teaching and learning with our goals for our superintendent.
Yes, do you have any updates?
I do have just a couple of updates. I'll be
Yeah.
quick. How's
Sorry,
that?
academic
It's
updates.
just some
You
academic
want to
stuff.
just
So-
switch those agendas?
No, was it,
Goals on top of it.
oh yeah, look at
Oh,
that.
that's all right. I can wait.
Yeah, no, we'll go to my goals. That sounds great. I apologize. I didn't know that.
No
was-
worries, you had me with public comment, so I got you back.
There you go. Let me just say the share my notes. Just pardon me for 1 sec.
And Dr. Swan, will this be, I don't know, and there's nothing behind my question, but just out of curiosity, are your goals posted on our website?
Not yet.
But they will be?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, right under, there's a section, it's called superintendent. It's under the superintendent section, you'll see my goals will be right there.
Perfect. So if people want more information.
Yep,
Because we don't have to go through, it's a healthy document.
it's a hefty document.
So we don't need to go through it in verbatim, but if people want more information, they'll be able to get it.
No,
So-
certainly. And I might just take a moment to show the cycle. So it's just quickly, the first step in the cycle and the second step in the cycle is really what is happening with this document and also with this presentation, which will be brief because the committee has it. Again, the committee can go deeper into the goals as they'd like. The self-assessment, where essentially I'm identifying some goals to propose to the committee and about professional practice and improving student learning, which you're going to see in a moment. Also looking at some of the things we did last year and how we're building into this current year. The goals that I am presenting to you are very much a continuation of the goals that have happened for the last 2 years, because we're on a 3-year strategic plan. And remember, everything stems from the strategic plan. The strategic plan sets the goals of the committee, which sets the goals of the superintendent, sets the leadership goals, sets the teacher goals. And you should see all of these items in action within the school community. And then this is what you're going to see today, really informally, is during the public meeting, which is this meeting, the school committee and superintendent review the proposed goals, key strategies, and benchmarks of progress, which means these are timelines. So essentially, you'll see a goal which tied to our strategic initiatives. And then you'll see a list of key actions, which will be actions that I will take throughout the year, working with key staff. And then you'll see the benchmarks, which are basically the artifacts or products of those actions, which have associated timelines typically. Sometimes you can put the timelines up with key actions, but more than not, in this document, I've done it with benchmarks. And there are a certain amount of goals that I need to have. I need to have 2 to 4 district improvement goals, and then a professional practice and a student learning goal. So this, what you see in front of you are 5 goals, which include 3 district improvement goals, a professional practice goal, and a student learning goal. So then you can see cycle 3 is I implement and I collect evidence. Cycle 4 is a mid-cycle goal review, where basically I report on my progress and get input from the committee on how I should change or adapt my goals. And then finally, it's the end of cycle summative reports, which is written by the committee, driven by the subcommittee, which does evaluate me. And then that is presented in a public forum when it's appropriate to do, deemed appropriate to do so by the committee chair. As part of the self-assessment process, I won't go into these, but I've shared fiscal indicators, safety indicators, and cultural indicators. And I've also added some more foundational documents, such as our strategic plan, our statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, which is the same as last year because I submitted it again. It's the same. So I'm hopeful. And actually, just to update everyone, we should be hearing fairly soon, because we heard about the beginning of November last year. That's when they tell people. So I'm still very hopeful on that. Our vision of a graduate and our continual curriculum review cycle. I did put it, so that's there for the public to look at, and it's certainly there for you to peruse. But all of these indicators show you where we are and where we're going. So this is really the self-assessment as a district. The letter to families I put in here in a document, and I also actually copied and pasted it in here, and that's been in my newsletter. I've always put it up until this point, and then I'll drop it. But I wanted it in there so everyone knew exactly what we were focusing on in the coming year, both from a philosophy standpoint and from an actual action standpoint. And after that, this document gets into the goals. So right here, the first goal, and what I'll do is I won't go over all the key actions unless you'd like me to. I'll read the goal, and so you'll know the topic, and then you can peruse the key actions. I'll put them on the screen without reading them to everyone, and you can suggest or give me any commentary on that, knowing that I've already gone through the evaluation committee for this. So anyway, the first goal has to do, and you'll notice that each of these goals, and there are 5 of them, it shows you what kind of goal it is, either a student learning, professional practice, or district improvement. And then it articulates the compass point. Remember, we have 4 compass points in our strategic plan, and each compass point is covered within these goals. So the first is, and you'll see because we are in the 3rd year of the strategic plan, you'll see a very intentional focus on teaching and learning. Someone watching from the outside might say, shouldn't we always focus on teaching and learning? And of course we do. That's what we do. But there have to be some foundational work. There has to be some foundational work in culture and in school culture, district culture, that sets the tone for all of these. And we've tried to do that throughout the last couple of years. This year is a real hard look at some academic initiatives that we're doing. And these are the major ones we have going on. So the goal is, throughout the 2023-24 school year, I will continue to focus the district on the implementation of the elementary comprehensive literacy approach, K to 5, and we're at different stages in Osgood and Deer Hill, intentionally. The middle school science Open SciEd program, the middle school math illustrative math program, the investigating history program in grades 5, 6, and 7, the curriculum review process, phase 1 for health and wellness, PK to 12, and phase 2 for math and the arts, the development of a computer science pathway, and on being responsive to data that indicates need for action. So you'll also note in these key actions that there are components about how we communicate with families and how we share this information with families, and also how we partner with various professional development groups to help further our staff's knowledge in these areas. So I'll just scan down the key actions so you can see them. Benchmarks, which do include timelines that you can expect to happen throughout the year. And these, of course, I will update on in my mid-cycle goal review.
Dr. Sal, just for efficiency's sake, we'll hold our comments to the end. So
Sure.
for the year.
Okay. So goal 2, if I may, is the professional practice goal. And this also has to do with Compass One teaching and learning. This ties directly into the new role of Rock Roberts, we're now calling him, by the way, the DEC, the Director of Data Evaluation and Curriculum. It makes much more sense after changing those titles. So he is the DEC and everything from now on. So just the next 2 goals really tie into his role. And of course, that's all under Dr. Scull, tutelage and guidance. Throughout the 2023-24 school year, I will work with schools and departments to create curriculum guides and benchmark assessments which vertically align to the teaching and learning pre-K to 12. I will also begin to analyze data through data dialogues with all stakeholders. You already have a sense that we're doing that, and you're going to get more of a real indication of exactly what we're doing when Rock comes to speak to you on November 1st. Next meeting. So that'll be good. And the key actions tie right into the work he's doing, but I'll let you take a look at them. Remember, this is important because our next strategic plan and work we're doing now, I see very tied into authentic learning opportunities for students, problem and project-based learning. But until we have, bless you, until we have a real set and front-facing curriculum and benchmark assessments, we're not going to be as successful as we could be. And this is really, it's taking the work we're doing, and we haven't done this in a bit, coming out of COVID, is to really put down on paper the important elements of our curriculum and our skills that we're set to do from the state. So that's what this is all about, and you can see the benchmarks and the timeline there. Similarly, if I may move to goal 3, this is a district improvement goal, and this has to do with social emotional wellness. And we're sliding a little bit. We're continuing our cultural responsive teaching. And again, remember what that means. It means that you're explicitly instructing and you're building relationships with students. That's what cultural responsive teaching really is in a nutshell to me. I know it has more components to it, but it's making sure you make everyone in that room feel comfortable if you're a teacher. And you do that by really building relationship with them and by being really explicit with what you're instructing and what you want them to show you about what you're instructing. That's really at the heart of this. But the other piece of it is once you get that relationship, you start allowing, you do this as you're doing it, but you listen to them and you build student voice. So there's a plan at every single building to build student voice. And you'll see me doing a lot more with my student advisory council to gather student voices and move into the next strategic plan. So I will empower staff and students to embody equity, cultural responsiveness, inclusivity, empathy, and global citizenship through providing professional development and timely feedback concerning cultural responsive teaching, through increasing students' knowledge regarding diverse cultures, and through creating structures and systems to expand student voice to enhance the inclusivity of the school culture and environment. And you can see the key actions and benchmarks that have some similarities to last year, but also go deeper with student voice. If I may, the 4th goal, which goes into, again, teaching and learning and social emotional wellness, our first 2 compass points. I guess I should have compass point 1 here, so I will put that in there. I just made a little change. Sorry. Great. Throughout the 2023-24 school year, I will collaborate with district and building leaders to continue our development in our MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, correct?
Correct.
Teams in the areas of data,
I know.
in the areas of data analysis and tiered interventions. So the big key here is we have a lot of our systems started and moving in a very contiguous way throughout the district. We've improved our communication and we've improved our, I would say, our communication with families about what MTSS is. I think more people know what that is. What we need to do now is we need to refine our work in creating goals for students in need. And we need to really be able to time and track those effectively and look at what that data tells us about what the district needs. That is huge. And that's something that not only will Rock help with, but Barbara, this is really centered in her goal. This is not a special education initiative. It's a regular education initiative, but it certainly has ties to what all our students need, which include our special education students. So you can see the key actions and benchmarks reflecting exactly what I just said. Final goal is about resources. And this goal is very similar to last year's with the inclusion of two elements that we're going through right now, which is our food service. We've always talked about improving food service. And as we've mentioned, right now we are in the process of hiring a new food service director or an outside company that would help manage all of that. And we're viewing this as a tremendous opportunity to improve the service for our students and really get a sense for what the community needs. And that is, and I'm very, very thankful and lucky to have Vice Chair McClellan and Mr. Kearney helping with that. So that, and also the idea of working to help with the school stabilization fund, to advertise the meetings around that and to try to work with Capital and the town to advocate for what's needed and to try to make sure we get that if we do indeed, if we are indeed fortunate enough to receive the stabilization fund from the town. So then you get all kinds of other evidence regarding our technology. I should mention that our panels are going in right in the next couple of weeks at the middle school, which is amazing. And that's, the panels are exactly the device that's right in front of us.
Yes.
Our middle school will be outfitted with that. That is a huge improvement. And then, of course, as you can see, our collaborative furnishings and everything that involves, that is tied into the technology plan, quite frankly, are already taking root. So that is it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sullivan. I'll open the floor to the committee members. I'll just go in order. Mr. Kearney?
I was first today, but I'll take it.
Because you're like all the way over there left.
Carter's not here.
Yeah, stop share so you can
So
see.
you're the next, no, better.
Yeah, okay. First of all, thank you for this. I think this is a well-drawn plan that took a lot of work just to look at. It covers a lot of things. It covers everything, which to be honest with you, I used to look at the last goal being, how are we going to fix this place up, right? And I think that's just been, you guys done a wonderful job. The thing that I would like to see more is more like participation reports, right? Like, what are the kids participating when it comes to health and wellness, right?
Love it.
Are they, because we always talk about like how many goals somebody has in sports, right? Like, okay, so what about the kids that aren't playing sports? Or what about the kids? I think we should analyze all the coaches to see if the coaches are really engaged with a student-first approach. Are they there to coach, to be called coach, or are they there to coach the kids and to bring them up and to be about the kids, not the coach? So like, I definitely think that we need to like put an analysis to participation, right?
Love that.
And to see exactly, is the kid being engaged in some of these clubs. So I always like to look at like, pushing kids up forward. Look at the 15% that aren't paying sports, or the 15% that aren't on the honor roll. So like, that to me is like, how do we uplift those kids?
Could be great. That's a great subject for one with our gathering a student voice.
Yeah.
When we go and we bring my student advisory council to the different buildings and talk to students in focus groups about how connected do they feel
Right.
to the activities they're in. And then there's some excellent quantitative data
Right.
that we can derive from just reports. How many
Yeah.
people are in clubs, how many people are.
And I think it's simple too, like if you see a kid by himself, like encourage another kid to uplift them. And why is that poor kid by himself? What's that? I think a lot of
Also student
empathy to other kids to
What do they need?
let them all be participating. And I say that like, we had a game the other night, it was senior night, and one of the girls that, you didn't really see play, she scored a goal.
Nice.
And the whole team was yelling out her name. I mean, that's the stuff that I'm looking for. I would say that we're looking for is to try to take some of that kid that's struggling and make him shine. And I think as a community, like look and try to identify that. If that could be the goals of like, try to identify the student that needs the help and how do we, and which way can we encourage that kid? So
Great.
I think that has to be a lot of communication. I know a lot of it's probably personal. However, I think you get to that by asking the questions. Are you okay? You're not?
What do you like? about school?
What do you
All
like
those
about
things,
Yeah,
you know?
thanks.
What makes you come every day?
That's the student voice work.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I appreciate, and since you guys come on board, that's been 100%. When you say student first, I really feel confident as a district that we do, that's just not a word, that we do that. And those are the things I'd like to see as far as some of the extracurricular activities that we do.
Thank
So
you.
making sure that's-
Thank you, Mr. Kearney. Ms. Leskey, any comments, questions?
Just thank you for the work that it is involved in sort of writing these goals and setting them and figuring out sort of what does that look like. I think I'm most interested in the fact that there's a level of communication, I think, in every single goal that you have with our community. I think getting those curriculum guides forward facing is going to be amazing for everyone involved. I think that is a huge, will be a huge step forward for the district when that's accomplished. I think working through the MTSS system and making sure that parents and the school and the teachers are all really working together when we're supporting kids who are showing vulnerabilities is early often and really all sharing our expertise about those kids is really important too. So I'm glad that the communication piece and which I think is very strong, but I think we're creating more and more dialogue through your goals, which I think is important.
Thank you. I should also thank you and Chairman Dial for your help in the subcommittee on these goals. So thank you. Mr. McCall?
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Just taking up the opportunity to state how lucky I feel the district is to have you as our superintendent of schools. I don't know that we could do better. So thank you for everything you do. First two goals, extremely robust, substantive goals. And I just wanted to, goal 2, which is that's quite a task for you. It's going to be great. If you can, or I'm hoping, I guess I'll ask a question. Is your vision for the curriculum guide to be something that will be accessible to end users, or is it really just sort of instructional administrative tool for you?
So I'm gonna I'll let Dr. Scoggins talk about that. So hold some of that thought though, because when Brock comes next meeting, you can really drill down into what his vision is for them.
Okay.
And I'd let Dr. Scoggins talk a little bit about that.
So there's different levels of those guides,
Okay.
and there is going to be a user-friendly end user guide for families and community that'll be posted on the website. And so that will be the overview of what's happening. It's a map, right? But it will have a lot of information, but it won't be overwhelming, right? And it'll be understandable for,
Exactly.
right,
Like,
because-
If you're not an educator, you might not
correct.
understand what we're talking about here.
Exactly. And so there'll be that base one that will be for everyone to understand, right? And then there'll be other guides that teachers will use, that are more in-depth, that have lots more pieces to them. So there'll be resources built in, there'll be links to all sorts of assessments, and those will be things that we will be using in-house internally with our staff to make sure that our curriculums are aligned, that we're assessing our students the way they need to be assessed. So all of that will be for us, but they are completely connected, right? Just one is just a little simpler for everyone else to understand. And then we'll review those every year because as we make changes, we'll be changing. It won't be just, we did it and now it's done. Right? So we're gonna have to update those curriculum guides,
Okay.
our school ones that we use, right, as teachers and educators, and then the one that's out for families.
Guides should always be dynamic and it should never be something that's put in a shelf.
No.
Like it has to be alive, but the forward-facing component, a community deserves that. They deserve to know exactly what is happening in the classrooms. And it also can prompt more questions that a teacher, if a parent had some questions, a teacher could get into more detail.
Exactly.
We don't want to make them overwhelming though, and we also want
No.
them to be user-friendly for our staff.
Yes.
So that's what we're working on.
Okay, it would be great if, I'm just envisioning like this as something that, so I love that it's gonna be, you're already planning on being accessible, and there's going to be a user-friendly
Yes.
edition, if you will,
Yes.
of this.
And Mr. Roberts will go over it with you.
It would be great if there maybe,
Okay.
I'll ask him then, I mean, maybe for his vision, I mean, it would be great if there's a tangible element to it that maybe the district could send out or something like that.
There is.
That'd be great.
There will be.
That'd be
It's
great.
gonna-
So
it's
in
gonna be a
addition to
web-
online, it'd be great if we're actually not passively, but actively presenting this to the community. I know we're a long ways away. It's just a thought.
But that's part of the process,
That is.
right? So,
Great.
yeah, and then
Great.
it'll be on the website. we'll
Great, yeah.
show people how to
Families
use
get
it,
something in
we
the
can
mail
email
from
it
the
out.
district and they're like looking at this and it's like, it'd be kind of
Yes.
cool because we haven't had it before.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be really productive. That, I would love to hold that thought a little bit so that we have all
Let's
three
do
of us
that.
here next meeting.
Let's do that, just throwing it out there because it's something that
I like
when
that.
I was looking at that. Goal 3, and again, we are very lucky to have you. So take any of this as just, food for thought. I wonder if in the penultimate line there where it says starts in the third to last, increasing students' knowledge regarding diverse cultures. I feel like what we're trying to do here is culture is important, but also perspective. So cultures and perspectives, because that's the empathy piece, right? So it's not just someone's culture, but also perspective. That's like, we want to make sure people are being open to understanding everyone's perspective, informing their own, right? That's what we're always talking about, incorporating all the different perspectives that are out there and understanding them, appreciating them, and then saying, okay, I buy that part of this perspective, this part, and that's my perspective on this,
Yeah, I think that's exact.
and, just consider it. And then, goal 4, this is a continuation of a long-term goal you've had, which you just mentioned, and you're sort of moving on to the next step, which is really good. I'm really, really happy that this is still included, because I actually mentioned that in the evaluation from last year, that we needed to continue it, because you're making a lot of, progress there. The second to last bullet point in action plans, you mentioned continue to create opportunities to engage families regarding the MTSS process. Would that incorporate like notifications? regarding
Yes.
the Process?
So that should be so if that breaks down, then that's something we're regressing. Because we did hit a point where we realized there was, and I think it was surfaced at one of our school committee meetings, that it
Yeah.
wasn't happening equitably across the district. And to my knowledge, we fixed that. And if that isn't fixed, we need to address that.
Okay.
But we will, I think,
Go ahead.
okay, I think go back to the meeting that we had with CPAC and PSO
Yeah.
and how we had that roundtable with the principals. We want to continue that work because I think families have questions. And so I'm not exactly sure what it will look like. I don't know if that's what you're asking,
I'm
but
just making sure that we're going to continuously endeavor to find any instances where families can be notified of anything involving their student in terms of supports.
Yes.
So, we may have certainly improved that. I think we have certainly improved that process. I don't know if it's perfect yet. I just want to make sure that this goal incorporates a continuous review of that to make sure we can improve
Yes.
in the notification process. And this goal will work obviously in tandem with goal number one,
Yeah.
because, you know, they'll go hand in hand with each other.
Yes.
So, okay, just throwing that out there. And then, goal 5, also a continuation of the long-term goal. You mentioned a couple just slight changes to it.
Very slight.
But with that slight change, that first bullet point, can you incorporate the feasibility or consider incorporating feasibility study results or, you know, feasibility study in there along with the school stabilization fund as well? Because I think that's going to provide us with a lot of very useful information as you consider what the future direction is for the district in terms of physical plant and hard resources.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I hadn't thought of putting it in there only because I didn't think of what my role would be in that, but I get, because I always figure it's, but
You'll be a recipient of the information.
Right, yeah, but they will be working with me for information. Whereas the stabilization fund, I figured that would be something that, you know, as I have been working with facilities to drive actually what we're needing, right? I'll put it in there. I like that.
In my opinion, if you're not fairly directly involved with the feasibility study process, we're doing something wrong as you are the superintendent. So I need, and that is something I've pointed out. I've taken issue with some of the process surrounding all of this.
Yep.
Where you have not been necessarily invited to certain conversations on time or at all. And I don't agree with that. That makes to me very little sense not to have the superintendent of schools involved in discussions relating to large scale future issues with the district.
I put it in there.
That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. The only comment I'll have on your comments is you did miss an opportunity to use and take penultimate.
Oh. You're right. You're right. But then you start confusing folks.
So
I've heard penultimate and Hobson's choice.
yeah, this is a very erudite group. This
You got some good. I'm keeping notes on that. Those are good ones.
So, Dr. Sullivan, as you know, and Ms. Leskey knows, we had the opportunity to work with you as part of the subcommittee on school governance and have offered your comments, which were reflected in the draft presented to the committee. I have no qualms with Vice Chairman Collins' suggestions, and thank you very much for your goals. I look forward to you achieving them.
That's excellent. I don't know, do we need a vote? I don't think you need a vote.
We don't have it indicated as a vote. Do we call it vote? I don't think we voted last year.
It didn't say you have to. vote.
I don't think we approve your goals. I think that we then evaluate you at the end of the year on whether you achieve them.
Well, I think you do approve them. I just don't know if you have to vote to approve them. Say, it says, during a public meeting, the school committee and superintendent review the proposed goals, key strategies, consultation with superintendent.
I don't
Seem weird for us to
remember
approve.
voting on the superintendent's goals. I think the opportunity here is to express
Input.
right and or
There you
lack
go.
of support for anything.
I agree.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Sullivan. I think-
And I will publish these in my newsletter and also on the website, and I'll make the suggestions.
It's awesome. Awesome.
Thank you.
We'll turn it over to Dr. Collins for some academic initiatives and updates.
All right.
So take it away.
So
You do have the ability to
I do,
share
thank
screen
you.
if you want.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll share a couple of things. Just a few things. So just an update on MCAS, where we're at. So we've been working in the schools. Rob Roberts has been leading those analysis with schools. We worked at Deer Hill last week with grades 3, 4, and 5 to go over their MCAS scores and just kind of do some basic analysis with them. We'll continue to dive into it with all our other data as we move forward, but it's good to kind of just get some overview of what's happened and then look for those trends and patterns and what we want to do and add to our action plan that we'll share with you later. We will be working with the middle school this coming week, and then we will also be working with the high school during their department meetings, and we've met with department chairs, and so we'll continue that work over the next couple of months, including Osgood. Even though Osgood does not participate in the MCAS, this is a pre-K through 12 assessment. So it's important for them to know what our scores are and where our needs are, where our strengths are. And so we have done that in the past. We'll continue to do that because what they do at pre-K through 2 impacts exactly what happens the rest of the way. We're really excited that we were able to put our MCAS student reports in Aspen.
Today,
So,
right?
yes, today,
Yes,
yes,
today?
yes,
What's
today,
about
they went,
that?
yes, they went, yes, letter went out yesterday. And so we're so excited to be able to do that. We did that with our iReady. We were hoping to do it with Dibbles for the families, but there's a glitch in that system from, we get our reports from Dibbles, so we weren't able to upload them the way that we wanted to, so those did go home hard copy. But the MCAS reports for families are in Aspen, so I just think it's a really nice way for families to know where everything is. They get a lot of paperwork and they can always access them. So I was really thrilled with that and can't thank Lisa Porlisi enough for all her work because I don't know what I don't know. And so she's the person that often brings these things to me and says, we can do things better, easier for families by doing X, Y, and Z. So
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
Not to mention how much money is saved just sending.
it is, and we do have the reports. They are in student files, so we do get those from the state, but it costs a lot of money to send them out for middle and high school, and so.
It's inefficient to get, sensitive documents.
Exactly. So, but I can, if you want, I can show you where it is in Aspen, or do you think families, have you gotten feedback? Do you think people are good? Have you heard
I think people are good, and I think they know where to.
where your bus pass is? And we're gonna just keep sending people there. So thrilled. So really happy about that. So we will come back, Rock and I will come back November 1st, and we will share our MCAS analysis information with you and how we did. And then, I think December 6th, that's
Yes,
the right meeting. So and then we'll have our action plan. And so lots of things are in play already. So we'll be able to kind of give you what's happening.
it's
So,
important to know that December 6th it's an action, it's when we display our action
Right.
plan. We've been working the action plan. It's just a matter of refining certain things. There's a lot of analysis that goes into the data that we have. Because
Absolutely.
it's, you put the data out, you go through a dialogue around it, and then you have collaborative conversations which move you in different directions, and people offer suggestions for practice that will improve student performance. Takes time. We did that last year, and I think it paid off.
yes, so we'll continue that. So just a little update around early literacy. So we met with reading specialists to review the data from our iReady and Dibbles assessments. And so we looked at our dyslexia screeners to see where students fall. So we're creating those plans, and we'll be notifying families that have students that are at risk for dyslexia. We'll be notifying them early November. That doesn't mean that we're only notifying families or students who have been flagged based on maybe at risk. We'll do other assessments to follow up with them, but also anyone who's shown that there's a reading or a math issue, then those families are being notified if they are going to be working with the reading specialist or the math specialist. So those things will be going out. The dyslexia committee is going to reconvene for this year to look at all the new guidelines, see our process, make sure that it's working the way we want it to work. So we'll be meeting with them throughout the year. And then our reading specialists, not all of them, but a lot of them are going to attend a workshop at Mass General Hospital on dyslexia next week. So I'm really excited about that for them. So we are continuing our work on early literacy. Professional development, been super busy. We had our full day on October 6th. And elementary continued their work with Teaching Learning Alliance, TLA. The middle school had some professional development from Imagine Learning, which is the company that has illustrative math. So that's their new program. History and science at the middle school were able to work together. Rock met with the department chairs and other people on the curriculum committee for the secondary, so that middle and high school during October 6th. And then the high school really worked on all their curriculum guide work. So it's a big undertaking for everyone to come together and look at their work and put it into the template that we've created around the curriculum guide. So we took our opportunity on the 6th to do that. TLA is continuing their work in Deer Hill and Osgood, but what we added this year was additional coaching for our reading specialists in their role in Readers Workshop, and also special education. They have someone who is a special educator and is going to work with our special education teachers around Readers Workshop and also reading in general. So we're excited about that for them. And then we also
had training with Curriculum Associates, who is the parent company for our iReady diagnostic. We trained all our new staff, so that was really exciting. And then we also have trained the trainer model for our personalized learning, which will be through iReady, called My Path for math and reading. And so you'll get more information about that in the very near future for your students. And continuing our work, we have added another preschool. So we connected with TLA to talk to them about looking at our curriculum for pre-K. And we are going to collaborate with the Plymouth Public Schools. I'm really excited about this. I'll share our flyer. So we are going to work with them all year long in conjunction with TLA. So I'm going to close some of these. I have a lot of things open right now. And and so what we've done is we've created a series of workshops that we'll be doing between Cohasset and Plymouth, but we're also inviting anyone else in the area that would like to participate in those, which will help defray some of our costs for Plymouth and Cohasset if possible. And so here's our flyer. See it. So we're creating a South Shore Preschool Consortium. So it's being hosted by us and the Plymouth Public Schools. And it's a partnership to design a special preschool programming. And TLA's done a lot of work. They did a lot of work in Texas, created their whole preschool program. They have connection to Boston with their Focus K2 program. So really excited about that. But those are our series. There's fall, winter, and spring. And it will it's kind of small, sorry about that. But we will be hosting here in Cohasset, and that will be October 20th will be our first one. And then we'll have one in November down in Plymouth. We'll also be meeting in Marshfield. They have an office there. So we're really excited about this collaboration to have additional teachers. Worked really hard to connect our teachers with other teachers outside of Cohasset. I think it builds for better curriculum and strategies for teaching kids. So really excited about that. And let's see what else I have for you. Our curriculum guides, and so I kind of give you that information. We also met October 12th with the elementary group and spent a whole day working on the curriculum guides with them. So that's the quick. It's probably a lot more things going on, but those were the big questions. Any questions?
Quick question. Relating to the assessment result review, is there any mechanism through which we are able to, on a student-to-student basis, identify either regression or just a general lack of progress? And does that trigger any sort of reach out to the parents? Because I feel like if I'm a parent and I'm not seeing improvement, especially if I have a special ed student or a student on, any sort of plan, or even maybe tier 2 MTSS, I would like to hear something. Like if I'm seeing, what I'm saying, I would like, it would be great if I didn't have to reach out, if the district reach out to me. Is there anything, are we able to do that?
That's a great question. I could say for special education, progress reports that go out every trimester that go along with their general progress report, which would talk about where they're at with their goals. Are you talking regression, you meaning from where they were last year to where they are this year? Or along the path?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And something that would be contemporaneous with the parents receiving those results, or at least within a reasonable amount of time. Like I feel like the progress reports might be, like the parents are already. What I'm trying to say, Dr. Scollins, is like, I'm a parent, I get the results, and I had my results last year, and my kid is actually doing worse now. And he was already struggling, or she was already struggling with reading or math or whatever, right? And I know he or she had been getting supports in it, and they're now doing worse, or they haven't improved. And I'm concerned about the product that my kid is getting delivered in the classroom. Like why I'm worried, why am I getting the results?
Right.
And it would be nice if, and I don't know, maybe it's unrealistic expectation, but it would be nice if the district could identify that within a reasonable amount of time after the assessment results come out and say, oh, we need to reach out to Mrs. Lesky because she's probably curious about this. And if she's not, we're going to notify her that this is an issue. And maybe she didn't catch it, right? But probably she is, and she's wondering, sorry, I'm using you as an example.
No, this was my exact same question, so this is great.
Okay,
We'll play
okay,
back and
so,
forth.
so you get my point.
Right. So if you were, if your child is in need of support, then you're absolutely going to get information because the reading specialist is going to pull your child or work with your child or math specialist, right, would be giving intervention. But that's a great question about the regression, like that summer regression piece.
Yeah, like specifically related to the results, like,
Yeah.
fairly contemporaneous. So that basically, I
Yeah.
feel like that would make families feel more supported.
Right.
And it
I'll
might
have to look at
also
that.
avoid unnecessary levels of concern, right? So like maybe, because we're all lay people, we're not educators, so we're seeing something,
Yes.
we're like, oh my God, panic button.
Right.
And if the district's reaching out within, a few days after those going out, saying, hey, we saw that, and here are some possible contributing factors to it. But either way, we're going to be working with Thomas, that's my son's name, and to sort of address these issues, and happy to meet with you if you'd like at some point.
Right.
Something like that,
Yeah.
I'm speaking very
Right,
hypothetically right now, but
yeah.
throwing it out there.
Yeah, I have to look because I have to, I have to, that's a great question, to be honest with you, to see. Because I just have to look at the report.
Well, that's
Yeah.
also,
Part of MTSS.
I also think that's where Brock could fit
Yeah,
into.
Yeah,
as well.
I know what you're, yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, I can understand what you're
If you
asking.
can look into
for.
it and see if it's
I will,
possible,
yeah,
I think it would
yeah.
mean a great deal to some of the families out there that may have a struggling student. Might
Well,
show
remember
us.
that my goal with, one of my key actions with MTSS was to look at data points that may require communication with families or may require communication with the school committee to advocate for more resources. So it's really not that outside of that. It really is, you get a data point that shows some regression in a student or doesn't show growth that would be typical growth. How do we respond to that
Right.
data?
Right.
And that's really what it is. How do we
Right.
respond to the data?
Right, is there a way that we can maybe be proactive, anticipating family concern?
Yeah.
And
Right.
just reaching it, because then you're like really next level, right? And the family's like,
Yeah.
wow, I feel extremely supported. That, I think I've articulated it,
Yeah.
and you guys understand, but so I don't want to.
There's a layer of that when you're analyzing it in the classroom too.
Right, there's so many
Right.
different levels, and we brought it up even during our MCAS, like just kind of looking at that overview that we started all those conversations and looking at our students with special needs and what's their growth, what's happening, like what's their achievement, what's their growth. So we are looking at all that and kind of trying to dive deeper into and look at specific cases. So it all ties into what we're going to do, and I like that feedback about thinking about how do we talk to families and give them information so that it makes sense. So, yeah, we'll look into that.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
Any other questions, comments from the committee?
I didn't know, I mean, Greg, that was exactly what was on my mind. I think a proactive communication, even as small as we looked at Jenny's report, and we're keeping an eye on things, something along those lines. Or do you have any questions? The growth percentile was really low and we are surprised too.
Right.
I think that's whether it's the classroom teacher, the principal, a special educator, I think this is general ed and special ed, that kind of level of communication indicates we see your child.
Well, we talked about that too. So when we met with the reading specialist, we talked about those students that we have seen that are at risk for possible dyslexia through the school years. And we all talked about, that's a phone call first, right? So, right, because no parent wants to just get that letter. So same for MTSS, like teachers should be reaching out, if their
That's
student
right.
is going in to the process for MTSS. I mean, when that happens, you got to get a phone call first. So that's what we're really pushing. And so that is also part of that communication piece. So
Maybe it's also parents understanding what that flow of information is and when they should be sort of generally expecting a phone call or a letter or something like that.
Yes.
I mean, I think parents do reach out, but I think there's
Yeah.
something special about having those people who are caring for your kids, educating your kids, reaching out proactively.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Scollins. That'll close off our teaching and learning block, and we'll move into budget, resources, and governance.
Yes, and we do have Ms. Owen joining us. She's feeling under the weather, so with the permission of the chair, I had her Zoom in, and actually she's gonna keep her video off and just speak to us. And I will share, can we hear, are you out there, Ms. Owen?
I am here. Hello, everyone. I
So-
apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather.
No, thank you for even doing this. I will share the, your report and you'll be able to see it, and I'll just walk through it as you see fit, if that's okay, Chairman Dial.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Sue.
So this is just an update for what's happening in our budget world from July to the end of September. As of September, we've expended a little over $3 million out of our almost $23 million budget, which is about 24.26% expended, and we're at 25% through the year, so we are on target. A significant increase from the August reporting, as now we're reporting that all school staff have returned and their payroll has begun. We have encumbered our supplies and materials on purchase orders in the amount of a little over 2.3 million, with a remaining balance of about 17.3 million, which will be expended by salary accounts and other school department needs that cannot be anticipated or have not yet been put on a purchase order, such as, substitute teachers. We don't encumber those types of things because we never know exactly how much we're going to need. So in that sense, we're just rolling out the door, and we're in a good place. Sped tuition's always an area of concern. When we originally budgeted this almost a year ago now, we budgeted about $940,000. That's excluding the circuit breaker amount. Right now, we have a shortfall on the amount of $502,291. We have had 5 unanticipated outplacements or tuition settlements, and we have also had 1 new student move in whose tuition is well over $200,000. So obviously, we are watching the sped tuitions accounts closely. We do have just about $300,000 in our sped stabilization fund, which we can tap into if need be. But as you know, our tuition accounts are very fluid and change day to day, month to month. So at this point, we're not recommending any type of transfers.
How much is in that fund? I'm sorry, the stabilization fund?
It's 299,800 and some change.
Okay. So that leaves a delta of $200,000.
Yes, but that number could change, Mr. McClellan. It could. We could have a student come back in to the district and the tuition would go away. We could have a student change from a residential to a day program, which would decrease the cost of the tuition. We could have a student who leaves the district altogether and is not enrolled in Cohasset. So there's a lot of factors that go into play, so that I'm not at this point worried about that negative number. We're just going to watch it and see which direction it goes.
Okay, I don't remember seeing that size of a negative number before at this juncture, so I'm a little concerned, but if you're not concerned, I guess I'm not concerned.
We did have one. We had a negative number of $250,000 fund midway through the year last year.
Midway through the $250,000, one half that, it's $500,000.
Yeah.
All right, that was alarming to me.
We will be watching that closely. Each month I will report whether that deficit is gone up or gone down, and at that point we can make a decision on whether we need to reach out to our sped stabilization fund. We also have circuit breaker funding that, in the case that we do run short, we can expend from the circuit breaker account from next year's allocation.
Okay.
The next group is just the school budget for the 4 schools. You can see what their budget numbers are, what we've expended so far, what we've encumbered. As I said, we're about 25% through the year, and you can see each of our schools are well under the 25%. We also give you the update on the FTEs. Compared to last year, you'll notice that Osgood is up. That is basically because we are now counting our full-day kindergarten students and staff, I should say, as full-time equivalents. So we had 6 staff, but because half of them were revolving funding, they weren't counted in the FTEs. So this number is up by at least 3. And there are other, other additions like the halftime math positions that we've added, and the math position at the middle and the high school as well. So those numbers have gone up slightly. Circuit breaker, money that we brought in from last year, which is helping balance this year's budget, was 1.1 million. This was carried over in its entirety from FY23 to 24 based on a 75% reimbursement rate. They just released the circuit breaker numbers, which were based on our tuition spent last year. And they were posted at 1,034,000, a decrease of about $136,000. That amount will be rolled into its entirety FY25. So when we budget for next year, we're already starting out with a shortfall of $136,000 based on the circuit breaker reimbursement. And then I give you a history here of what circuit breaker has been over the years. We've been very lucky that it's been at 75% for quite a few years now. I do recall in my history that we were down as low as 42% at one point. So the 75% is really a nice percentage to see. Capital projects are all in process, as we talked about. The projectors are coming into the middle school and starting to be replaced. We have our 8 new diesel buses. We have our 8 new diesel buses. We are waiting on our 1 electric bus. The timeline is still December. We are working with getting the charging system set up with the utility companies and the e-bus company and the landlord. So that is proceeding as planned. And the Osgood vestibule, glad to report that project is about 99.99% complete. Only thing left is maybe a little bit of touch-up painting. It looks phenomenal, and I have to say, the Great Builders did a phenomenal job. They had such a tight timeline, and they got the job done even when we had our safety window came in and it came in broken. So we had to wait 3 to 4 weeks for an additional new window to come through, but that's since been put in and it's working fine. Next, we'll talk about the grants. We have 7 new grants that I've highlighted in yellow that Dr. Scollins has applied for. One is expanding the high quality instructional math materials. One is the Open SciEd middle school implementation, and one is investigating the history implementation. And you can see we brought in 23,000, 62,006, and 26,009. And then off to the right, I've given you what last year's amounts were for the grants. Pat, can you just scroll down a little bit, please? Keep going. There we go. So there's our grants, and you can see off to the right. So you can see our school improvement grant. This year we received $18,343, and last year we received $19,492. Those grants typically decline each year. You'll see that our special education grants usually increase each year, and our METCO grant at this point has increased slightly. Sometimes they do have a mid-year increase or a late fall increase, so we won't know exactly what the METCO amount will be, but it's pretty close to what we had this past year. And then we have the revolving accounts. If you can read that, you're pretty good. We have the revolving accounts. I give you your opening balances. I give you receipts that have been brought in to date. Obviously, it's still very early on in the year, so there hasn't been a lot of revenue coming in, but there has been some. and you can see what the fund balances are at this point. You will notice we have a negative in our school kindergarten. It is not a negative. It's logistics, basically. We have, if you remember, a $300,000 line item outside of our school budget to fund full-day kindergarten. This was the cleanest way to record it, is we're going to continue to spend it out of the revolving, and then the town accountant, director of finance, will make a transfer of the 300,000 more towards the end of the school year. And then our school use of facilities, we're hoping to recap this year, now that the fall sports have begun, and our rentals and facility rentals have happened. So you'll see, hopefully the school use of facilities revolving account will come up out of deficit, and be at a more balanced number. The next group, I'm sorry, I didn't photocopy this.
Well, I didn't either.
No, Dr. Sullivan didn't either. It might have just been with the way it was scanned through.
Yeah, that's fine. I figured out, I figured out how to rotate
This is a test.
it.
So this is just the school budget and what it accounts for, based on grouping, on FTEs, which is full-time equivalents, and head count. So FTEs are, if I'm a half-time person, I count as a half, but as a head count, I'm a whole body. So that's the difference in head count and FTEs. Down below that, we'll show you just a summary of personnel by salary and what the percentages are versus regular ed, special education, and undistributed, which is basically those areas that cover both or aren't designated to regular or sped. It gives you how many FTEs are in each group, and the head count in each group. So our salaries right now out of the school budget are about $20,173,000. And then I give you just a breakdown by school of FTEs, what FTEs are paid for and allocated through the budget, and what or how many FTEs are paid through grants and revolving. So you can see in the kindergarten, the number of kindergarten has gone from 3 to 6, and there are no kindergarten staff coming out of the revolving account because they're fully funded by our school budget. And the summary of our electric and our gas as well, through the point of September from year to year. And then it gives you FY23, FY22, and FY21 annual costs in kilowatts or therms used. Again, we used less energy last year, but of course, cost is up as always. The next group is just FTEs coming from grant and revolving. So you can see, our Metco grant funds 2 FTEs. Our SPED 240 grant covers 9.4 FTEs. Our early childhood covers a 0.5. Our Title I covers a 0.5. The Title I is slowly going away. Next year, you'll probably see there'll be no staff paid from the Title I grant because the amount that we're allocated is pretty minimal. So it'll be more for supplies, materials, or professional development, or tutors if we can get tutors. And then below that is just the revolving account. So how many staff are paid out of the early childhood revolving. You can see again, kindergarten revolving is 0. Cafeteria, we have 15. Transportation, we have 5.9. Athletics, we have a 1.0, which is 2.5. And the good news is transportation, we just had our driver in training pass their test. So we have now added another bus driver to our staff, which is great. And then there's some enrollment numbers based on October 1st numbers that kind of give you an idea of what each school has for enrollment, class sizes at the elementary levels, and how many classes in each grouping. And then down below this, I left last year's month to month. So we have March, April, May, June, and then the comparison of October 1st. And you can see where the numbers have changed. So at this point in the school year, without our usual concerns, utilities and unforeseen tuition expenses, which we are seeing coming right out of the gate this year, the budget's proceeding as projected. We will watch the special education tuitions very closely and keep you apprised of, any concerns or any changes that we need to talk about.
Thank you, Ms. Owen. Any questions or comments on the monthly budget update for Ms. Owen from the committee?
Thank you, Sue. I hope you feel better.
You're welcome. Thank you. We think we have a couple more things to talk about. We need a vote as well.
But before we move on, Ms. Owen, I have one budget question. We do have indicated in the budget, there are a couple line items that Mr. McCullough noted, the negative 500,000 for SPED, and then another one. Do you, I understand that these things are fluid and move around, but do any of these give you cause for concern with respect to our budget? It does look like we're running under budget with a number of matters as well. So it seems like we're, from a more layperson perspective that I provide, it seems like we have room to flex in our budget a little bit, but I just want to pressure test that with you.
No, you're correct. I'm not concerned at this point. We had one new student move in whose tuition was over 200,000. We could have one student whose tuition is over 200,000 move out of district, move out of state. So it could change by, just by one student coming or going.
Right. But were things to stay on steady course, it doesn't sound like you have any concerns from an overall budget standpoint.
Not at this point, I don't know.
Great. All right, then let's move on to next item, I think is also the budget priorities, calendar and planning.
Correct. So we work together as a team. This is the budget calendar, very similar to last year, just gives you the dates. Some of this is obviously we've already begun.
Sue, can I just add that this was approved and discussed with the finance and facility committee?
Yes, we met with the subcommittee already on these two items. So, we're already talking about budgets for next year with the administration and leadership team. We've already gone over a draft of our capital list. We just have not submitted it to the town yet. Budget information is being worked on by the principals as we speak. So, the calendar is pretty consistent with each year, just pushing dates off based on school committee dates. We'll have the capital walkthrough. We'll have the budget workshop. We'll have our state representatives come in. So this is just something that we look at every year, and we have school committee vote on, and we follow as best we can.
So this is great. Thank you. One thing I would like to, and maybe it's built in here, but one thing I want to make sure we do a better job of is the past couple budget cycles have had some, and whether it's because of timing or difficulties or focus, but we've had some speed bumps in our cooperation with the town capital committee and the town advisory committee. And what I would like to build in here somewhere is to, instead of having multiple meetings with each of those committees, if we could proactively reach out to them. And I see that down here, we do have a potential joint meeting of school committee, selectmen, and advisory committee. But I would like to see if we could get maybe a joint working meeting at some point earlier in the budget so that they have the opportunity to answer questions or ask questions, and we have the opportunity to answer them in one single forum, as opposed to kind of I'll call it an unintentional death by 1,000 cuts in the budget process that we've had in prior years. So there's a way to think through where that would work out well in this budget calendar.
Would you advise, because I think when we talked about this, we felt that where it says TBD, like that, this was the point that should happen. in one meeting, and that was really, I think, a very sage advice from the committee about reflecting on last year's process. Where would you propose putting it?
So I don't know, because I really want to, it depends on where you guys are in the budget process, but there's two spots that jump to mind. One is there's a period of time between November 15th and 29 after the school committee finalizes the budget priorities. And then you discuss preliminary fiscal 25 budget with the principals and directors. That may be too soon, but that was an area that jumped out. And the other one is the end of year period between December 20 and January 10. After we receive the preliminary operating budget and before we get it presented at the school committee meeting.
So I think our goal was to not, to preserve the right of the school committee to be the driving factor in the budget approval process, and not have you be compromised potentially by other groups having differing opinions. That was sort of the thought. It was more to preserve your ability.
Well, those other groups, as we've learned in the process, are going to have their opinions whenever we engage with them. And I think, getting those opinions in one spot, I just don't want us to, and again, I'm not gonna micromanage this calendar.
Sure.
The goal for me is, as a participant in those meetings, is to make sure it's efficient for you, for me, and for the capital advisory committee. So, in prior years, they've been, and I don't have the calendar for me when we had these meetings, and I think it was maybe more springtime, so your TBD might be right. But I just want to make sure we get that right. So instead of having a series of meetings or having meetings where we don't finish through all of our capital, it's on the books early. So we have something to work towards, so that we're going to have a big meeting to make sure we get all the questions asked and answered.
Well, certainly that December 6th budget workshop with district leaders and school committee is set to gather input and questions as we finalize our budget decisions. That's a point where, if the committee feels that would be a place where other groups might partake in that's what that's about. So that's a thought.
Yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily a committee, and maybe it's a subcommittee question.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's the concept.
That's great. Sue, can we put a pin in that one to talk to our finance and facilities subcommittee? I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions on the calendar?
Nothing here in the room, as well.
Okay. The next is our budget priorities for FY25. Very similar as last year, because we're still, following on our strategic plan. Teaching and learning Compass Point 1, we did add a little bit of language in there regarding social studies. I don't know if Pat wants to add anything to that. I know he worked on that paragraph.
Well, I think you can see how these budget priorities really reflect my goals. And it's intentional. Like this is where we're spending the money. This is what we're trying to do. This is where we're trying to focus in these various compass points. So I think it should be fairly self-evident.
Well, unless there's questions, maybe we can just take this as read and move forward.
I don't know if there's any questions regarding the budget priorities for next year.
No, and I appreciate the colors. Livens up the meeting a little bit.
Yeah. Try to be colorful. Good.
All right, just vote on this.
And that sums up,
Yes, which element is this is indicated on our agenda for a vote?
Both, right?
What would you request of the committee for a vote?
I think it's both. So calendar and priorities, but.
calendar and priorities, correct.
So the only thing about priorities, I think, I don't know if there are any questions with, on the calendar, we have the hanging item about a meeting. I don't know that we necessarily have to have that in the calendar from my perspective. I think that can be a tactical move as opposed to an overall calendar thing.
Could you approve the calendar pending potential change of that or addition or change of that particular item?
We could, if we're going to change, we need to come back to the committee anyway. So what I propose then is just table it until the next meeting.
Okay.
So, but if you need it approved today, I think we can do that. I wouldn't stand on.
Sue, how do you feel about that? Do we need it approved today?
It doesn't, no, it doesn't need to be approved today.
Can we approve them individually so we can approve the budget priorities?
We can approve the budget priorities. I guess, do we have a motion to approve the budget priorities as presented?
Second.
Motion made by Chairman McCollum, Vice Chairman McCollum, second, Mr. Keating. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And then does the committee have a view on whether we wait on approving the calendar? Anyone opposed?
I agree with you that I think it can just be, I don't think it needs to be a calendared item what you're talking about. I mean, I think personally, I think we can approve it as is.
I'm fine with that. So do we have a motion to approve the Cohasset Public Schools budget calendar for fiscal year 25 as presented in the meeting?
I move to do that.
Motion made by Vice Chair McCollum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Letsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right. Ms. Owen, your budget priorities and your budget calendar are hereby approved. Please go forth and plan our expenditures.
Thank you very much for approving that. Other, issues of budget resource and governance, food service, as you know, we're in the midst of searching for a new food service director / company. We're looking at all our options. We started interviewing process today. We have more interviews again tomorrow. So we're moving very aggressively to try to get something in place in time for our former food service director to be able to move on to her new district. But that's going well. We have some great candidates, some great companies. It's going really well. Transportation, as I said, we have another bus driver that has passed the test. So we have multiple bus drivers on standby. So our sports and field trips are being covered. We do have one bus driver retiring in December. So, we have ample amount of bus drivers to fill those needs. And then we have the electric bus coming in, which we're looking forward to as well. Other than that, I don't really have any other updates regarding food service or transportation. Things are moving along quite well. I haven't really had any issues, knock on wood, with buses and having to double up routes. That's a thing of the past, thank God. But things are going very well.
So any questions for Ms. Owen? Great. We have in brackets here, school facilities committee update. We will not have a school facility committee update. I do want to reach out to Mr. Earls, the chair of the school facilities committee, and find ways to better incorporate our two committees and have him potentially come on a periodic basis. We used to have this as a standing agenda item when it was very convenient, as we had a member of the school facilities committee as a member of the school committee. But for good reasons of good governance, we have our school committee members are now exclusive to school committee, and the school facilities committee are now exclusive.
And I apologize. I believe I should have dropped that.
That's okay. The brackets were there and indicated it was 10. So we'll I'll reach out to Mr. Earls and see if he can attend a couple of our meetings in the coming months. That'll close off our budget resources governance block F. Going to block G. Do we have any reports from our school committee, subcommittees, and or liaisons? The only one I'll offer is we did have our governance subcommittee we talked about earlier. Ms. Letsky and I met with Dr. Sullivan to review the goals in advance of the presentation here tonight. Other than that, I have nothing to report. No report. No reports.
The Deer Hill School Council will meet.
Excellent.
And they are off to a good start, and especially with so many new faculty. And we talked a lot about the Deer teams, which is one of the initiatives there to bring children together.
Great. All right. Agenda block G is complete. Now, school committee governance, there are no topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair. We have no minutes that have been submitted for approval. Do we have any thoughts from the committee on future agenda items coming out of today's meeting?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair. I, given some recent experiences, believe that there's a need for the district to consider seriously offering or incorporating digital citizenship topics into the elementary curriculum, specifically either fifth, possibly fourth grade, but at least fifth grade. The reason for this is that I think that at the very least, our fifth graders, this is an ever-changing environment, you know, and I think that our fifth graders are becoming more exposed to technology. You know, I think the kids are being exposed to technology at an earlier time, and that they're then confronting issues that I don't think they're equipped to confront yet. And specifically with, you know, messaging one another and things of that nature. So I think, and so in other words, I analogize this to our anatomical maturity discussion that we have with the fifth graders. We do that at the, you know, precipice of adolescence so that we equip them to understand what's happening before it happens. I think that we offer this in sixth grade. I think it's very important for the digital citizenship topics to be explored in middle school, because there can be some serious, that's when you start seeing some really serious issues. But I think we need to start consider whether or not that's too late for some students. I think it is. And I think that we need to equip our students to be able to navigate those otherwise uncharted waters, so that they understand the perils of reckless use of technology and how permanent certain things can be and how damaging certain things can be to others without really realizing it. So I would ask that we put on the agenda at a future meeting, a discussion of incorporating digital citizenship topics into the LE curriculum.
I think it's a great idea, and I know Dr. Zellner talked a little bit about, we do have some current offerings there,
Yeah.
so an outline of what we have and what we're doing, and whether we can enhance that.
Really important topic.
Absolutely.
Completely agree. Be good to service that and also to get input upon about what we can do to make what we have better. But I think it's also important for everybody to understand what we're currently doing.
Right.
And then add input. So it's a really good suggestion.
It is, and we were at MassQ today, so MassQ is a big, huge conference that happens around technology and innovative learning. So I was there actually with Cassie O'Brien and Lindsay Kay, who are our instructional technology people, and also Rob Roberts, and actually Cassie and I were talking about this exact thing around digital citizenship, and so like just all the things that you're bringing up, so yes.
And cyber safety.
Yep, cyber safety, all of that.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Integrity,
That'd be
academic
great.
integrity,
all
Thank
of
you.
those
Sure.
things.
Any other thoughts for future agenda items?
Awesome. Not from this member.
All right. We'll close off the future agenda items. There is no reason to move into executive session. With that closes off block H. I will not solicit any further public comment, and we can go into block I to adjourn. If I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Chairman Collins, second by Mr. Kearney. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Motion's carried. I hereby direct us all to adjourn. So,
Have a nice night, everyone.
thank you.
Good work.